Blow. Blow.
You're an appointee.
Regarding the new signing, perspective regarding this new signing, what sort of impact are you hoping to make now?
Oh, well, I think it's a huge relief. I think it's a huge relief that this piece of legislation has been finally signed 12 years after the last one. The last Electoral Act that we're operating is a 2010 Act. And we must commend the National Assembly, particularly the committees on INEC, both in the Senate and the House of Rep, for doing such a yeoman's job of putting this together and ensuring that we have a law that can accord with global standards and also with the yearnings of the ordinary Nigerians. There's been a lot of hullabaloo about this over the last few weeks, even bordering on skepticism that it would not be signed. I'm glad that some of us have been proved right because we told the media that Mr. President will sign this piece of legislation as soon as the section that he raised concerns about are removed from the legislation. And they've been removed, and he's lived up to that belief that many of us have, because it's always said to Nigerians anyway that one legacy he would like to leave as he departs office is a credible and fair electoral system. And this will go a long way in making that possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Elections are credible, peaceful, and also reliable. By bringing in the electronic transfer of results from the polling units, that in itself has cut out a lot of things that have bedeviled political processes in this country, electoral processes in this country. Today, we can safely say that the amount of money spent on elections would definitely be reduced. We can also say that the kind of violence that we normally witness will be, if not completely absent, will be reduced to the barest minimum. And we can also say that today, Nigeria, that every country looked up to as a leader, because we are the biggest economy, we are the most populous country, we represent the black race, and therefore, if Mr. President has done this, he has done the black race a lot of proud.
Are you sure?
And
okay.
Yeah.
The new law is going to provide a level playing field for everybody, including the smaller parties?
Well, I believe that it will because it's in itself a step forward. It's like a great leap forward in terms of laying the foundation for credible, reliable, and free elections. But one thing, like you rightly mentioned, is the issue of money politics, because still at the polling unit, unless the law enforcement officers rise to the occasion, we will still have cases of people being manipulated, the voters being manipulated with money, and I believe that the laws are there, but what is lacking is the enforcement of those laws. And if we don't enforce them, it will be like the saying goes, it's a situation where you say whatever you put in is what you get, meaning that if you do not ensure that people freely, cast their vote, then it will be a situation where money will still play a very strong role. And when money plays a strong role, you do not have the kind of leaders that you want to emerge at the end of the day. So yes, Mr. President has done his own. It now remains the law enforcement officers and also the INEC that are charged with the responsibility of delivering this very important process, which is the elections. So I believe we are there. What remains are things that like crossing the T's and then dotting the I's. So I believe today, as political parties, we are happy that Mr. President has signed this bill because it's before it was a nightmare. Everybody knows that elections are conducted under very, very obscured environments. And today we have sorted out a lot of things by ensuring that at the point of voting, interferences at the collation center, like I said, at the point of voting, we still have to come up with ways by which we can address the issue of use of money, obscene use of money, to influence voters. Otherwise, to be garbage in, garbage out.
All commend the distinguished senators and honor members of the 9th National Assembly for working so hard, for working in a very bipartisan manner to produce the amendment bill for the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2010 for Mr. President to assent to. It took a lot of effort, a lot of work, commitment and dedication by members of the National Assembly and other stakeholders, those in government particularly, and some civil society organizations. I want at this point commend Mr. President for being there to ensure that any challenge as far as the passage of the appropriation for the Electoral Act Amendment Bill was concerned, he ensured that it didn't stop us from going further to reach the end in a conclusive way. Today marked the most important part of this exercise when Mr. President signed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2010 into law. For us in the 9th National Assembly, this is a fulfillment of one of our cardinal objectives in our legislative agendas in the two chambers. And of course for the administration too, this is one very important piece of legislation that this administration will bequeath to Nigerians, especially when it comes to the electoral environment, where we always feel that we must improve on what we have met, and by the time we leave, the electoral climate must be better in terms of integrity, in terms of transparency, and ensuring that every vote counts. For Nigerians, let me say congratulations to Nigerians. Many Nigerians have shown interest. They remain focused on ensuring that the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2010 becomes a law. And of course, it is a law today. And for INEC, now you have what you need. INEC, you have to produce the best possible electoral exercise, right from probably the Ekiti and Osun off-season elections, and of course in the 2023 general elections. For Nigerians, law is one thing, respect for the law is another thing. No matter how beautiful a law is, if there is no desire, no commitment, and that obligation to ensuring compliance with the law could be less effective and efficient. So I believe that we need to respect the law now that we have an improvement over what we had in the previous years.
Mr. President is asking for amendment. How willing are you?
No, you know, this is a legitimate request, and when I say I commend the president, I will commend him for so many things, but let me also qualify it that even though he had a disagreement with a section, especially clause 84.12, that talks about public political office holders, he still went ahead to sign the bill into law, and that to show his commitment and his commitment and desire to have an electoral law that will ensure that we have better outcomes when we do elections. So we will look at what he's asking. I hope that they will send the request for the amendment in good time because time is of essence. INEC is waiting, and because we don't want to spill over some of these dates unnecessarily, we will be expecting a communication from Mr. President with respect to this, and then the National Assembly in both chambers will look into the request for amendment. But on the whole, I think this is a wonderful, wonderful development for this administration, for Nigeria, for the evolution and development and growth of democracy in Nigeria.
Mr. Speaker, this is the first in 12 years. What new? What's new? What is new that's going to happen to Nigerian electoral environment?
Well, first of all, let me join the Senate President in commending all the stakeholders, starting from the members of the National Assembly, right all the way through to the CSOs, the President, and the general public, the media. It's been a collaborative effort by all stakeholders, students, the youth, and today is a culmination of the work product of all those people put together. I believe it's a landmark piece of legislation, and it has far-reaching, and I mean far-reaching implications of the provisions contained therein. I can count offhand at least 10 to 15 provisions in that electoral law that, if properly executed by INEC and the people who the laws are made for, it will be a turning point in the electoral history of Nigeria. And we will witness and not just be mouthing free, fair elections and credible elections, but we'll actually witness free, fair and credible elections moving forward. So I'm happy. I'm happy that this day has come. It's been long coming, and I'm sure everybody will be happy. I must say that almost just like what the Senate President said, we must give it to this 9th Assembly, even if we have to toot our horns, in the sense that we're barely 3 years into our tenure. Barely 3 years. We're not even. We haven't turned the 4th year yet. Yet, this 9th Assembly has been able to put on the table for Nigerians landmark legislation, and this is just another one of them. So we have almost over a year left, and I believe we'll begin to polish off some other pieces of legislation. But the major ones, we've dispatched with in the interest of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thanks for checking out SYMFONI on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.